Hey there guys, it's Dinner with Trading Cards, and today just going to be going over, I guess, a few updates over Chrysalis Wars, what's been happening with the project changes and stuff, because it's been a couple months since I've updated. It's still been mostly just me playing by myself, doing everything by myself. However, I have gotten a handful, very small handful, basically two people, to help me test out the game a bit more and develop it a bit further, and I think we've come up with a lot of good ideas. Made one pretty big rule change that fundamentally changes a lot, but I think opens up a lot to the game. And it's been a really cool experience. Although I guess first I do need to end up saying that all the art here is not owned by me. I made the card frame and all the graphic designs and stuff, but the card art isn't mine. Right now this is just being used for the testing, but that's probably gonna be a while because I don't really have the money to spend on 145 different arts because that's just set one size. So yeah. But anyways, if any of your art is in this video or anywhere in this project and you do not wish it to be, please just tell me and I will gladly go on ahead and remove it from the project and replace it with something else. But, I figured while we were here, I could, show a game, kind of. Not in its fullest, I'll mostly just be talking over it, but kind of give you the general gist of how the game is played, rather quickly. This isn't, an in-depth tutorial, but a rather bit of an overview for anyone that didn't see the last video, which was also kind of rambling. I don't blame you, honestly, it's not that good of a video. Usually, most of my videos aren't that good, so basically in this game you have a core crystal, which is represents you as the player. If you play Buddy Fight, this is essentially the flag from Buddy Fight. You build your deck of the same color or crystal type as your crystal. However, unlike in Buddy Fight where they were usually just deck building rules, here they have their own unique effects and are essentially spell cards you start at the game with. They can have continuous effects, once per game effects, and multiple various different things. I can do a huge amount of avenues with them, and I'm getting even more and more ideas of what to do with them in the future. Every set will release new crystals for all the colors or crystal types, as we'll keep referring to them. Yeah, so basically the goal is that you have these, you design your 40 to 60 card deck around them of the same color, and then the goal is to, every time you hit your opponent, based on the number of damage you deal, the cards get added to their hand, and when you deal them damage while they have no energy, they lose the game. And it's just, that's the main goal. However, every time you do also deal them damage, which is the new rule change, they get 1000 defense on their core crystal until end of turn, which means that the harder you hit them, assuming they have a good amount of energy, the more defense it's going to be. So if you come in with a big 3 crit attack, they take 3 damage. If they choose not to block it by any means, then they are sitting at 3000 defense, which means it's going to be way easier to guard the remaining attacks if that was your opening attack. So figuring out your attack order, even if that means sometimes just going after their guys on their field, becomes a far more interesting thing to do. And it's just deciding attack targets, although you still, especially here in set 1, mostly it's going to be going after the core crystal, but set 2 will introduce taunts, which are, if you don't know, cards that say that you have to attack this before you can attack the life, before you can attack the core crystals, what they'll be in this game. And yeah, so anyways, you basically start every turn by taking anything that's turned horizontal, putting it in the vertical position. This is called making everything from depleted into energized. You then put the top card of your deck into your energy and draw a card, but the person going first doesn't draw. From here, you go on to your standby phase, which is the main phase of this game. And you can play any number of monsters, aka Nexians, to your 5 field areas. You can move them around. There's one there, they just swap. You can play over ones to get new ones. Previous ones just go to the drop. You can play cards as the standby phase icon, which is an S symbol. Here, you can also move a Nexian into the clash zone or Nexian out of the clash zone once each a turn during your standby phase to make up your field. The reason you want to move a Nexian into the clash zone is that the card there gets an extra critical, but that turns off your ability to use counter strikes, which are essentially this game's quick play instant traps. They're your hand traps that let you just play from hand. If you do this and you turn off the ability to use that, so if you're trying to really hit hard and aggroing, you do have to give up that. But red's a color that actually always wants a card there because that's just where its card's effects trigger. But because that It lacks a lot of defense. This is also an aggro deck. This black deck, it's all about being at low damage. Right now I don't have anything to enable that, so I'm just going to play this guy out, and he has 4,000 attack, so it's a pretty good attack line, and I'll just swing. Now at this point, since I'm swinging as Core Crystal, which has 0 defense at this moment, he can choose to guard from his hand any number of cards by calling them to his Clash Zone, which I only have the one playing at the moment. In that case, if he does, he adds all the defense of those cards to the attack target, which right now would be the Core Crystal. And if his defense exceeds my attack, then the attack is blocked, and everything he defended with would go to his shard pile. But right now, red, usually you end up taking the first attack just so you can get cards, unless it's a really big one. You have a good counter strike to try and stop it. But right now in set 1, it's kind of niche. So a lot of times you just take it, and a lot of times the person going first will just throw out a guy into the Clash Zone, unless they open up good counter strikes and they're like, I'm probably going to need this. Which, depending on which color you're playing and which deck you're playing, that's going to very much matter. Because certain colors just have more counter strikes and more rely on them and yada yada. So this will attack. I'm not going to guard on the red side, so I'll take 2 damage. I add the cards to my hand one at a time. If there's any cards with the counter burst ability, which this one does have, I could discard it and activate that effect, but this one says choose something with 2,000 attack, 2,000 or less attack, 2,000 less defense, and kill it. This has a 4,000 attack and 3,000 defense, so it's not an actual target, so that'd be kind of a waste to just discard that from my hand. So I'm just going to pass turn on that. So then it would go to the opponent's turn when they would charge and draw. Now they have a pretty hefty hand to call to their 5 areas. However, the thing to know is that you can only have between your front field area and your Clash Zone 3 cards. This is limit you to 3 attacks per turn normally, to try and stop you from doing stuff like that. So I'm going ahead and play out Hanamaru, Deuce Dragon of Flames. I'll throw out another Deuce Dragon of Flames to a front row area as well as I'll pay 1 energy to play out Nimbu. He has a 2 crit by default attack, and I'll equip him with the Crimson Flame, because this is another thing you can do during your standby phase, is equip cards to a Nexian, but a Nexian can only have 1 equipped card equipped to him at a time by normal means, unless the card states otherwise. I'll go ahead and move him to the Clash Zone because this deck just wants to hit hard. The card that he's equipped with is the Crimson Flame, which gives him plus 2,000 attack. So he's at a 5,000 attack, and since he has a base 2 crit and he's in the Clash Zone, he's now swinging in for 3 crit. Now my opponent could, if they had a counter strike and nothing here, activate a counter strike in response, or at any time as long as the conditions met. Or they can choose to guard with cards from their hand to try and stop the attack. I actually have 5,000 attack right here. Or 5,000 defense, but I'm going to choose not to guard it because I have to exceed it, and that'd just be a waste of cards. So I'm just going to take the 3 and see what's here. There is no counter burst, so I'll just keep all those in hand. That puts me at now 3,000 defense. This will come swinging in for 5,000 attack, 1 critical, at which case now I would need 3,000 defense to block the attack. I'm going to take this one as well, which puts me up to 4,000 for the turn, and this comes in for 5,000. Now, I will choose to go on ahead and guard with this card, because it has 3,000 defense, putting me at 7,000 defense for this attack, which blocks the attack, and with that, I'll end up passing the turn. So everything that's tapped stands up, and I draw a card. I'm going to go ahead and move this back so I can have room for stuff. I'll play out this guy to the back row. Play out Alice here. Alice's ability, I'm going to pay 1. Let's see, actually, do I have something else that I can use to pay 1 first? No, I do not. Because if I had 0 energy, she would charge 1, so that's always a nice thing. So I'm going to go and actually, because what I can do is that instead of using that, I can play Paragon Lost in the Void. If I have 2 or less energy when it's played, I can search my deck for any Fractured Nexian and add it to hand. I'm going to go on ahead and pull out the Agonized Puppet, Hajiko. I'm going to move him to the back row and play her out to the front row. Her skills, I can pay 1. And if you pay from the energy, it just goes to your shard pile. They only go to your hand if you're taking them as damage. So she gets an extra 2,000 and extra 1 critical. I'm then going to go on ahead and use Hajiko's ability to pay 1, kill something on the opponent's board. And since I have 0 energy, I charge 1. And then from there, I'm just going to go on ahead and Shoot, what do I want to do here? Because I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and activate Gateway to Fractured Wonderland. It says choose a human character I control and kill it. And search my deck for any card with the Fractured trait, which is what's under the name. Let's see, what do I want? And she's only, and also in this game, if a card says it's a once per turn effect, that's across all copies of this. So she says I can only use her pay 1, get her 2k and a crit once per turn. So even if I search for another copy of her, I can't use that ability. Same with Alice, because she's a once per turn, but I can search my deck for what's in hand. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and search my deck for Fractured Hope, because this is a really good defensive card. And add that to hand. And anything that you cast in general goes to the Clash Zone. Pretty much everything you play goes to the Clash Zone that you end up doing stuff with. I'll go ahead and move Paragon forward. And we'll come swinging in. So she'll come swinging in for 5,000 power, 2 critical. So we'll end up taking this first one, second one. Alright, so we do end up having a counter burst. So we will end up choosing to, by paying the counter burst, I can choose a card with 2,000 or less attack, which I'm going to choose this, or 2,000 less attack, 2,000 or less defense, so I'm going to kill that off. So that puts me up 2,000 over there. This will come swinging in for 4,000, so I'll end up guarding for 5,000 since this has 3,000 defense. Then I'll end up casting the counter strike. No, that's the wrong one. Fractured Vengeance. So if I control... Oh, never mind. I got killed off by the counter strike, so I can't. Basically, Fractured Vengeance is if I have 4 more Fractureds, I can discard 1 and then pay a Fractured card from my hand. So I'd use that to get an extra attack off, but that counter burst ends up popping that. So that's a little sad. But that's fine. We'll just end up keeping that. So it ends up going back to their turn. They end up charging and drawing 1. Going ahead and play out Regulus Crimson Nova the 13th to the field zone. So you technically have to play to the field zone first. I'll then go on ahead and play out Raging Flames of the Heart. I'll pay 1 and kill off the Gerald in the back row. Yeah, we'll kill off the... Yeah, we'll just end up killing off the Hajiko. So we'll kill off the Hajiko, and since I have 0 energy, Raging Flames of the Heart charges me 1. And from there, yeah, I think we just end up going into, well, let's see, no, because I actually do have this, so I can go on ahead and pay 1 to play out Nimbu here. We'll move... Nah, that's fine. He can stay back there, actually. And also, this first Nimbu, actually, that got killed off, goes under my core crystal, because its ability says when something's killed, it goes under there instead. Then we'll move Regulus forward. Regulus's ability says whenever he attacks, for every other Crimson Beast on the field I control, he gets plus 2,000 power, which just bumps him up to 8. And then if his power is 10,000 or more, he gets an extra crit, which would make him 3 crit in the Clash Zone. But I'll end up paying all cards that are underneath my core crystal so that the attacking card in the Clash Zone gets an extra 1,000 attack for every card sent, which would boost him up to 9,003 critical. So we end up taking this one as damage, which ends up making us 4,000. So that ends up making us 4,000. So this will end up coming in. Oh, that's all my. So this will end up coming in for 5 to 5 for my towards my 1. So we'll end up guarding from hand this, which will make us 6,000. And then here comes Deus Dragon of Flame. And then I'm going to cast Fractured Hope. If I control 2 or more Fractured Nexians and I have 0 energy, I can nullify all damage from this one attack, but I can only cast this once per game. And with that, that's it for their attack. So then it goes back over to me. I charge and I draw. And I will play on out Giorgio and Hajiko. And using Hajiko's ability, I will pay 1 to give her 2,000 power and a critical. just for the sake of it. My opponent has 0 energy, so literally any attack, and they only have 1 card in hand, so that's probably going to be it. He actually almost had me because my crystal here says if I have 3 or more fractures, which I only have 2 on the field, I can turn it face down, discard my entire hand. It doesn't die. It doesn't shatter this first time it would shatter from it getting hit. But instead, at the end of my next turn, I lose automatically, and I had to discard my entire hand. So it'd be whatever's on my field. And since I only had 2 on the field, I wasn't going to be doing so well, but that's why I ended up searching this out last turn, because I knew I was fighting red, and they'd probably be able to do some popping on my field, which really honestly did hurt, but fortunately, so we did have that to keep that going, and we're just going to, going. This will be 4,000. They only have a 2,000 defense in hand, which case, they can't guard, so the core crystal is hit, it's shattered, and then if they somehow survived at the end of the turn, this would kill itself since I have 0 energy and at least 2 other fractures on the field. It'll charge 1. And then at that point, if they probably would win because they would just hit me once, and then the second time, that would trigger stopping it from getting hit that one time. But then they'd have a third attack, and this wouldn't do anything. So if they somehow got another turn, definitely would have been dead. This is also a best of 3 game. It was a 10-card side deck, so that is also something to keep in mind when you're going into. So don't feel bad if like, oh, this is a bad matchup. And there is generic cards as well, even though you're building the same color. In every single set, set 1's a little limited because you're building solely from your color, and there's only like 25 cards for each color, plus 2 core crystals for each color in the first set. So, and while there is 2 separate builds for each color in the first set, it will definitely be something that expands upon as we go along. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I said this wasn't going to be a full in-depth tutorial, but it kind of ended up being one. Definitely will probably make a proper one in the future when I get closer to having more sets ready and hopefully getting proper art for set 1, but that's just a lot of money that I just don't have at the moment. But anyways, down below there is proxy sheets to all this stuff. There is also my Discord server to this, so if you want to get any updates to it, as well as there is Tabletop Simulator where most of the testing is done and the updates happen first. So if you want to hop on over there, you can DM me at any time on Discord. And if you want to get some testing in for me to teach you the game properly, if you have any questions, we're trying to build. There's only 3 of us really playing at the moment, so definitely want to try and build this up. Thank you guys very much for everything going on. Keep playing the games you want to play, and as always, have fun.